Malachi chapter 4, verse 2 says, "But for you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in its wings. You shall go out leaping like calves from the stall." You ever see a little calf leap out of its stall? It's really cute. But they have all this energy and they seem to be made of rubber. Just like when you're a little child, you know, it's different than when you get older. If you fall down and hit the ground, hit the floor, whatever, you get back up and you bounce around. Like leaping like calves from the stall. You shall go out leaping like calves from the stall. Leaping in Hebrew is push. It means to spring about. It also means a growing up. Springing about, growing up. Kind of like a flower. When it starts to bloom, it's growing up, right? That's why they call it springtime, because things start to grow up. Interesting. It says the Son of Righteousness. This Son is spelled S-U-N. And it's the Hebrew word shemesh. It means to be brilliant. It also means the sun. So, to be brilliant, or the sun, like a brilliant light, the sun, shemesh. And then it says healing. Healing. The Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in its wings. Healing. Healing is marpeh in Hebrew. It means a cure. A cure. Now, I put a footnote in my Bible to compare this to Matthew chapter 17. Let's see. Matthew 17. What verse was that? Verse 2. Okay. Yeah. Verse 1 says, "And after 6 days Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves." Interesting, by the way, Peter, James, John, right? Peter's name means the stone. James, which is actually Jacob in Hebrew, means switches, a switch or a change, right? To trade places. And then John means grace. So if you take Peter, James, or Jacob, and John, you can say it means the stone switches to grace. Or the stone changes places to grace. The law was written on stones, but grace came in Jesus, right? In Jesus, he was full of grace. So there's meaning behind names. It's interesting, but here's verse 2. It says, "And he, Jesus, was transfigured." Metamorpho, which means to change the very shape. He was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun. S-U-N, once again. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. That's pretty interesting, right? So super, super bright. So it gives a little bit in Matthew here. It gives a little bit more meaning to what we found in Malachi 4 verse 2, that "For you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness." Who is this Son of Righteousness? Is it actually the S-U-N, or are we talking about the S-O-N? Righteousness is sadika. It comes from the Hebrew word sadiq, to be righteous, to be innocent, to have a judicial approval in God's eyes. So this righteous, this innocent one, this judicially approved one shall rise. With what? With healing in its wings. Now, there is that story in the Bible where this woman who was bleeding for years and years and years, menstruating for years and years and years, and it just wouldn't stop. And if you only understood what this woman had to go through, because That was, if a woman was bleeding, well, guess what? She's unclean, and everything she touches is unclean. And nobody can go near her because unclean, unclean, you're filthy, get away. Right? Don't corrupt me. You're dirty, and don't let your dirt get on me. Right? So she's unclean. And for 12 years, she had to live this way. Could you imagine? No companionship, nobody to touch her, nobody to hug her, no embracing, nothing. Because this was against her religious rules that she had to live by. Thank God the stone got switched to grace. The stone covenant, it's been fulfilled. It's been taken care of. It hasn't been destroyed, it's been fulfilled. There's a difference. But this grace covenant, we're in it. And it is here. And only grace can set you free. Because the stone law demands from people. The law says, give to me everything you've got. It demands performance from you. It drains from you. But what grace does is grace supplies to you. Do you understand that? Grace supplies where law demands. So the demand to this woman in the law is, stay away. You are dirty. Do not contaminate. And she went to doctors because there were no priests that were there to set her free. How come these men of God couldn't set her free? Doesn't just one of them have healing in their wings? Is one of them perhaps the Son of Righteousness with healing in its wings? Now, there is this thinking in the Jewish traditions, if you want to call it that, or beliefs, and it goes pretty deep. See, Jesus, he wears this robe, and on the edge of his robe are these little things that are called tassels. These little strips of material that are called tassels, and they were known to be dyed in this very rare blue ink, and it's this ink that they get out of the ocean. It's very rare. It's a rare dye. And when they would soak it in this ink and make this material become blue. Now, we're talking a little bit about grace, and grace in Hebrew, two different words, chen and chesed. Chen is grace. Chesed is more like a covenant grace. Covenant grace. A grace that wants to marry you, right? So, grace has a name. Grace also has a number. And in Hebrew, it's the number 5, which is also the letter He, because in Hebrew, their letters and numbers are the same thing. Their letters have numeric value to them. So the letter He, which is the 5th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, what in English we might call the letter H. He is the 5th letter, and it is grace. So the number 5 in Hebrew is grace, right? So grace has a name, a couple names, chen and chesed. Grace has a number, 5. Grace also has a color, and the color of grace is blue. amazing that when you look up into the sky, it's blue. And if you're in the sky and you look down to the ocean, it's blue. Grace, grace. It's like a grace sandwich. This earth is grace sandwiched, right? We are sandwiched in grace. Grace on top, grace on the bottom. So these little tassels on the edges of Jesus' robes, those things the Jewish people would call feathers. So what does a wing have on it? A wing has feathers. So if his robes were like the wings, but at the very edges of the robes, those were his feathers, those little tassels. And Scripture says the Son of Righteousness would have healing in its wings. Oh. So healing in its wings, in those little... And that woman, she's like, if I could just touch the feathers. If I could just touch that blue little tassel, that feather, what they call feathers. Because Jesus is setting all these people free. Healing people. Left and right. Literally. And this woman realizes this is her only hope. And the one thing she does is she breaks her religious laws so that she can be touched by his grace. Now, nobody encouraged her to go break these laws. The law doesn't say, you know what, go ahead and break me. Go ahead and break me. Because, you know what, grace is over there and he's got healing for you. So break the law. And nope, that's not how the law works. You see, Paul says in Romans chapter 5 verse 20, where sin increases. Now you might think this woman wasn't sinning, but she was breaking her religious rules. If you break the rules, you are sinning. You are missing the mark. You are not obeying the rules. So, she's breaking her rules. So Paul says, when sin increases, and her sin was increasing, the closer she got to people, these crowds of people, to get to Jesus, she's breaking the rules. She's getting all them contaminated. Right? Because she's unclean. Don't come near her. Unclean, unclean. Don't touch her. Oh, don't brush up against somebody. You just made them unclean. But Jesus is her only hope. And I'm going to tell you, his power was drawn out of him through that robe into that feather when that woman touched the edge, the hem, the edge, the tassel on his robe. The blue tassel, the grace tassel. And Jesus even noticed that power and energy flowed out of him. So much to where he says, who touched me? There's a bunch of people touching you, Lord. I mean, come on, there's crowds around us. Yes, 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 but who touched me? Meaning, who drew power out of me through confidence and faith in me? Who dared to even attempt to just touch the tassel, not even my skin, just the tassel, the feather of my robe? Whoa! That must have been something incredible. Because Jesus is used to delivering the healing by touching, by commanding. But this woman breaks the rules and goes up and draws it out of him. It's like if somebody were at a water well and they had some type of a ladle or something, and they're scooping water out of the bucket with this ladle and giving everybody a drink, but somebody else comes from behind and grabs that ladle and takes a drink themselves. That's kind of like what that woman did. And she immediately was healed. Now, I can't even begin to imagine not only what that must have looked like from an outsider looking in, and I can't even imagine what that must have been like for Jesus to feel that, to experience that, his power being drawn out of him through somebody's faith. This woman that broke the rules. Well, like I said, Paul says, where sin increases, God's grace super abounds. And that Greek word for super is hooper, or what we call hyper in English. Hooper perisseuo. That's the two Greek words for super abounding. Hooper perisseuo. Perisseuo means abounding. It's like it's immeasurable. His grace is immeasurable. There is no limit to his grace. So grace is a limitless supply, where the law is a limitless demand, right? Because no matter how much effort you give to be obedient, there's always something that the law will point out to you where you are failing, and it will demand from you. No matter how good you think you are in your behavior, in your thoughts, in your words, the way you walk, the way you talk, everything, there's always at least something missing. But grace supplies. And grace supplied this woman with healing, because the man that was standing before her had healing in his wings, even in his feathers. Now, do you guys know Kim Fisher, or have you watched her channel, her videos? A lot of interesting prophetic things that she experiences from the Lord, but she also has a son named Skylar. And Skylar has something called leukodystrophy. And it has something to do with the white matter in the brain deteriorating. And it affects his motor skills, his speech, and the way he controls his body, the way he can use his function, right? The way he functions. It affects all of that. But this little boy, Skylar, we've prayed for him on this channel before. And she shared a picture of Skylar with me, because this boy, let me just tell you something. There is something about him where it seems where he is lacking, right? Compared to other people that do not have leukodystrophy. Do you know he has words that come out of his mouth? The boy has the ability to speak in tongues, plural. There's praying in the Spirit, which is your own language in your spirit. It's something that God gave you. Just like at the Tower of Babel, when the languages got confused, people didn't suddenly make up a new language. It just was put into them to where they suddenly spoke a different language. So praying in your spirit is something that God deposits in you, and you speak in it. And you can speak in it very fluently, like I do. I fluently speak in this, pray in the Spirit, speak in the Spirit, sing in the Spirit to the Lord. But there's this other thing called speaking in tongues, plural, which benefits other people, right? Because if you can't speak that other person's language, but God imparts that person's language into your tongue so that you speak their language to them and you share the gospel, well, now you're speaking tongues and they're hearing the gospel in their own language, from somebody that can't even speak it. And that's a marvel indeed. But this boy, Skylar, he speaks in many different languages. And he speaks very prophetic words, and words that have so much power. So this boy has a great gift. Now, of course, we want to see Skylar function without this leukodystrophy, right? And we're believing that by the stripes of Jesus, by the wounds of Jesus, that Skylar is healed. Healing in the wings of Jesus. But as Skylar is right now, this boy, where it seems he is lacking, he is filled in a different area. You understand that? And it's all a grace gift from God. He didn't do anything to earn it. It's just his. And it was given to him by God. And he doesn't even probably know that he's using that gift. He just does it. He speaks it. You know, Kim sent me a picture. She might have shared it on her channel. So before I upload this video, I'm going to get permission if I can use that her son's picture for the thumbnail. I'll send her a message and see. And then when she responds, then I'll be able to upload the video whenever I get a chance today. I'm just getting to work right now, so I don't know what time you'll see this video, but it's morning time right now. So anyway, Skylar, she takes a picture of him, and it's amazing, you guys. In the top right corner of the picture, it looks like there's this rainbow arc. Bow is an arc, right? So kind of this rainbow color. And out from that rainbow in the right corner of the picture, and it goes all the way down to Skylar, is, you gotta see it. You're gonna see it. It's a rainbow feather. It is a feather, right? And feathers come from what? Wings. And that feather is touching Skylar. God is saying, healing is in my wings. This boy Skylar's being touched by this, and he's speaking in tongues. A young boy with this great gift, and his mother hears these words. See, it's not the same thing as praying in the Spirit. It's these words that are of different languages. And she listens to these words. Like, for instance, Haya, Haya. He says that quite often, Haya. And he's not doing karate. Haya, Haya, Haya. And that is the Hebrew words, I am. What did God tell Moses his name was? What shall I call you, says Moses, and God says to him, I am. And those words are so powerful, you guys, because I am is talking about identity. He is the one that has always been. He will always be. He's never had a beginning, never has an end. He just is. He am. Do you understand that? It's identity. You know, the amazing thing is, people are given names, right? Like Jesus, his Hebrew name, Yeshua. Given a name at birth, Yeshua, which means salvation, because he's the Savior that does what? Brings salvation to all. But his identity, so that's his name, that's who he is, that's what he does, saves. But his identity is Emmanuel. Emmanuel. And that means, in Hebrew, God with us. Ooh, this is God with us? Yes, this is his identity. That's what Thomas saw, that identity. When Thomas saw the resurrected Jesus, and Jesus says, look, Thomas, it's me. See the holes in my hands? You see the hole in my side? Do you want to touch? You want to come feel? You said you did. And Thomas is like, oh, my Lord and my God. He said to Jesus, my Lord and my God. See, so he saw Emmanuel, God with us. Now, here's the thing about Skylar. And I was thinking about this, and I'm like, I never talked to Kim about it. I don't know if she ever realized it, but, there's this guy in these series of movies called Star Wars. And the hero of the story was this guy named Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker. There were other heroes and stuff, but Luke Skywalker, that was the guy. That was the son of Darth Vader, right? Luke Skywalker was the one that was supposed to bring balance to the Force and make things right again. So, the name Luke, see, when they use Luke Skywalker, when they use names, they do that on purpose. There's a lot of movies, you guys. I don't know if you realize when people put characters in movies, many times they look up the meaning of a name, like Neo. In Matrix, Neo means new. Do you understand? New, like a new birth, new beginning, new birth. And this is what Neo did. He had a new birth, a new beginning in the movie. So Luke is light. Luke means light, right? So Luke Skywalker was in the good side of the Force, not the bad side of the Force. He was in the light, not in the darkness. Because there was the light and the dark side, right? So Luke is on the dark side, or in the light side of the Force. And a Skywalker, what is a Skywalker? Somebody who walks in the sky. Jesus, we are going to meet him in the sky. We will walk with him in the sky, perhaps on a firmament. So there's meanings to these names. And I'm realizing Skylar has that word sky in it, but also leukodystrophy. Luke. I'm like, wow. Luke Skywalker. It's like this boy has a gift, like he's a chosen one, like Luke was. And on the outside, you might think, he's got a problem and he's weak, but man, there's so much that has been deposited in this young man. And it's all because of Jesus. Do you know in a rainbow, by the way, one of the things I love when I look at a rainbow, or I have pictures of rainbows I've taken and I've seen them so many times, and they're always really remarkable and beautiful. And they have this arc, right? Perhaps the shape of the firmament. And the one color in that rainbow that doesn't stand out a whole lot, because these other colors seem to overpower it, but the one color, if you search and look for it, it's there, and it's the color blue. And even though blue might just be this little thin strip looking thing in the rainbow, well, you know what? When you see a rainbow and you see that color blue, remember the little tassels. Oh, Jesus had a big robe and all that stuff, but think of those little blue tassels at the edge of that robe that they called feathers. And this woman, knowing that there's healing in his wings, perhaps if I just touch just a little feather. Jesus didn't say it takes great faith to move tiny molehills. He says it takes tiny molehills to move mountains, so to speak, right? He said just a little mustard seed of faith can move a giant mountain, instead of move a mustard seed problem with giant mountainous faith. This woman had this quality. See, it's all about the quality of faith. It's not the measure, the amount, it's the quality. Do you understand? The quality of faith that she had was confidence that he, Jesus, Yeshua, was her only hope. Because she had already spent all her money on doctors, and this is it, and this has got to be it, because if this don't work, she's going to get stoned. They're going to take rocks and kill this woman because she broke all the rules. Could you imagine she touches Jesus' robe and then nothing happens? Know what happens to her? First, Jesus is unclean because his robe's unclean. Get it off, contaminated. And then this woman, she contaminated everybody else now, and she's a woman that is breaking the law, so they are going to execute execute her. That's how serious this is. Do you know how much confidence she had to put in Jesus? And I'm not talking mountainous confidence. I'm talking about this quality where she couldn't crawl through this crowd of people breaking the laws and have even an inkling of doubt in her. She had to have confidence, and not only in Jesus, but she's not going to touch him. She's going to just touch the little edge of his robe so much that it pulled power out from within him. Within him. Her faith drew that. Isn't that amazing? That's that little blue tassel. So when you think of a rainbow, when you see a rainbow, think of that story of that woman, that little blue tassel. Look at that color blue. And if you see a feather or even a rainbow feather somehow, think of Skylar, Kim Fisher's son. Think of him and thank God for that boy. Just say, Lord, I thank you for Skylar today. I thank you for his family. I thank you for his mother sharing so much about him. Thank you for Skylar, Lord. We declare that healing is in your wings and it is covering Skylar from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you for your healing. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your feathers. All right, you guys, I hope this message has blessed you. Hope you all have a great one. Remember, know your identity. Know who you are, who Christ has made you to be, right? Who you am, who you am. Discover what has been given to you and learn to use it because it is yours. Now learn to use it. All right, guys. Love you. God bless you. Have a great one. I'll see you all in the next video.